What is the most insensitive thing you've ever been asked? I had a mandatory one-on-one meeting with my high school counselor about college prep, and the first thing he does when I walk in is scan me with his eyes and says, "Well, I guess we don't need to worry about filing your college athletics form now, do we?" and put the form I came in there for to swim in college back in his desk. Edit. There appears to be some confusion. I'm a male and the counselor was implying I was scrawny, and ultimately I decided not to swim in college because the school I chose was D1 and feeds directly into the US Olympic swim team, and I'm not that good, haha. Have a seizure-like disorder, choreoathetosis. They present themselves in these really inconvenient episodes where I lose partial control of body parts. One time, I was on a date with a dude, and after I told him of my situation he said, "Wow, it'd be pretty hot to have you seize while we're fucking. Think you could arrange that?" Didn't bother with him after that. Your partner is having a seizure. Do you A. fetishize their medical condition and go down on them right then and there? B. call a fucking ambulance? What an actual disgusting question from your dad, no less. Someone you're supposed to be comfortable and feel safe around. I'm really sorry you got that question. I hope you're able to be away from him or something similar. Just an absolutely horrible question. Oh my god, I have no words. Just take my upvote and stay the fuck away from your father. When I was 16, I got asked by some random guy at my aunt's house if I knew that I was prettier when I wasn't smiling. I've always been self-conscious of my teeth, and he made it so much worse. I'm 28 now and still hate them, but will at least smile in some pic. To insulting some own smile or laugh is a horrible thing to do. It takes a lot of joy away when you remember it. I struggled with trichotillomania as a kid. My mom tried all kinds of things to help me quit the habit. But since it wasn't the root problem, just a symptom of anxiety, most of her attempts made it worse instead of better. I remember one time when my cousins were over for lunch. We were all gathered around the table, enjoying our food and having pleasant conversation, when out of nowhere, my mom announced to everyone, "Have you noticed that you/Shupva has no eyelashes? She always pulls them out." Everyone turned to stare at me, and one of my cousins said disgustedly, "Why would you do that?" Got back from the bathroom at a restaurant. My mom asks in front of my family, "Do you go into the bathroom to throw up after you eat?" I've only been conscious of what I eat after that. Edit. There appears to be some confusion. My bad. It does look like she's concerned, but she spent many years of my life telling me I'm too skinny, I don't eat enough, etc. I was borderline underweight for a long time because of an untreated thyroid condition, but since that incident, my mom has gaslighted me about the body shaming she used to encourage in me and in people around me. I have a complex about going to the bathroom around mealtime now because I don't want people to think I have an ed when in reality, I just need to pee. Don't most businesses have the policy to give up all cash ASAP and not to put up a fight or defend the cash and merchandise? Yes, other than the obvious moral and ethical reasons, it creates more liability for the company if the employee is hurt and can increase insurance rates. So even if the business is run by morally bankrupt assholes, it's still in their business interest for employees to just hand over the cash. I personally know a bank teller that was nearly fired because a bank robber passed him a note and he thought it was a joke. They told him that even if he is 100% certain it's a joke, you fork over the cash anyways. Side note, if you jokingly attempt to rob a bank, be prepared to be charged with attempted bank robbery. I worked as a waiter for a few years in high school. Elderly gentleman came up to me and asked, "Is it okay to be dealing with food with all that acne?" My parents had a restaurant and they hired this sweet little 14-year-old who was super keen to work. She had a birth deformity in her hands that left her with one thumb and one finger on each hand. She would deliver the plates one at a time, for obvious reasons. A rude old man obviously didn't look at her hands and lectured her on how, if she wants to succeed as a waitress, she needs to learn to carry multiple plates. She nodded and was polite and continued to wait on them. My dad didn't want to embarrass her further by making a big deal in front of her, but when the table left he followed them out and informed the rude old dude about her hands. All his family were super embarrassed and they haven't ever come back. Soon after I got home from cremating my child, someone asked if the cremation left chunks of bone and, if so, did they grind that down? Thankfully I saw the humor in it, largely because I could see his wife wanted to kill him. This is something you ask the employees at the funeral home, not to the attendees of the funeral. Father-in-law asked me if my husband and I, if we were eating okay while at college. My response was yeah, we're able to make ends meet and get groceries and even have a little money left over. His response was yeah, I can tell you've been eating plenty. Looks like you ate the whole damn grocery store. I was 5'4" and weighed 110 pounds. Sounds like a real charmer. Hope the apple fell far from the tree with that one. My psychologist asked me if the man who tried to kill and rape me would have been my type and if I would have given him my phone number if he'd asked me. Changed my psychologist after this. She also told me I was kinda asking for this to happen. My ex-mill ran into me and asked when I was due. Thing is she knew I had miscarried a child with her son, one of the reasons we split up, and also knew because of that I could not have children. I just happened to have a still slightly swollen abdomen after a full and total hysterectomy at the time. Needless to say I had a very hormonal and emotional response. When sitting my dad and stepmom down to tell them I had cancer. Are you sure? You're always overdramatic like your mother. She watched too many soap operas. Then the following months after treatment and a major surgery they told people I didn't have cancer and I faked it. They were there for the major surgery and the treatments. So I get asked by family, did you really fake cancer? WTF. Edit. Thank you everyone for your support. It means the world. To answer the question, yes, I kicked cancer's ass. I'm very limited contact with all of my parents due to their toxic nature. I keep minimal contact for the sake of my siblings. I have confronted them, but they act like they don't remember or don't know what I'm talking about. I've showed my medical records to my other family and they were shocked. My biological mother also supported me. Same thing happened to me, twice by different people. Condescendingly said, what are you doing here? Once at a bad midsep and once at the school gym. At the gym I was with my wrestling team who backed me up and told the guy to fuck off basically. Great moment of camaraderie. One of my ex's friends did the same thing to me at a bar a week after we broke up. The friend's boyfriend, however, had no idea we broke up and greeted me like a longtime friend. We partied for a bit like nothing happened lol. I know 100% for certain he was chewed out later that night by his GF because the next time I saw him, 1 week later, he did the same exact what are you doing here thing his GF did. Same attitude, inflection, everything. That man is whipped for sure. I was asked if I knew what I was putting people through by having cancer. I'm so sorry that I woke up one day and decided I wanted to have cancer just to inconvenience you. If I knew it wasn't convenient for you to worry about me, I never would have decided to jump on the cancer bandwagon. Thankfully never had cancer and hopefully never will, but as a kid got in a pretty serious accident that meant daily physical therapy for hours on end for over a year and a lot of time in a wheelchair. I wasn't of driving age yet, and honestly, probably wouldn't/couldn't have driven myself even if I could. One day my mum was late to picking me up, so I was waiting in the lobby and the receptionist basically said, do you even say thank you? Your parents have to deal with a lot because of you, driving you in and out of here every day. Do you even show them you're grateful? Like yes, I do. But also, who the hell are you? When I was 9 my best friend passed away from a stroke. I was the one who brought her to the school office and stayed with her as paramedics came to take her to the hospital. She died 4 days later. It was an extremely traumatizing experience and caused a lot of pain and mental health issues. I learned to cope by giving myself 2 days of the year devoted to thinking about her and letting myself feel my emotions fully. Those 2 days are her birthday and the day she died. One day when I was in high school, I think around 15 or 16 years old, I was hanging out with my friends at the local park. We were discussing what we were going to do the next day, and I told them that it was the anniversary of her death, and that I might not go to school that day. That's when one of my friends turned to me and said, "What are you gonna do, mourn?" And then she laughed like it was a joke. All I could say to that was, "Yeah, of course." That was the first time I noticed that my friends didn't respect me like they did each other. Are you going to make your sister's death a national holiday? This was because my sister died at 43, the first significant loss ever in my life. This was the 1-year anniversary of her death, and I knew it would be hard for me, so I requested the day off of work. This was a coworker who could name all of the people she lost, so she bragged, since her brother died at age 14, and she said she knew like 30 people who had died since then. I used to put up with her weird quirks, but from that day on I hated her, and didn't remain friendly with her. It was the 1-year anniversary of the last time I saw my dad alive, before he died suddenly of a stroke. I was visibly off that day at work, and when I told my boss that was why I was upset, he asked, "When are you going to stop using your dead dad as an excuse?" Eater. I worked for him for a lot longer than I should have after a comment like that, but I'm working for much better people now. Oh, so you want a Twix? I'm 30 now, but grew up with a lisp. Was in speech therapy for years. When I was about 8 years old or so, I went up to a concession stand at my brother's little league game. Asked to buy a Twix. The teenage guy behind the counter, trying to impress his lady coworker, decided to repeat my words back to me. Made me cry. One of the only times in my life I've ever seen my mom go full mama bear. She asked me why I was upset, and when I told her, she marched up to that dinky little stand and tore the guy a new one. But yeah, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this question. Weird how little things like that stick with you. Some people fucking suck, but then you get to see the ones who don't. Like my mom. Defender of the little people. Love her. My brother died while I was in college, and I went to talk to one of my professors in person about missing some important classwork for the funeral. I told him why I'd be gone, and all he said was, "How did he die?" And I was kind of taken aback but told him. His response was, "Oh, yeah, I guess that's fine if you miss class," and turned back around to his computer. Edit. This professor was also my advisor and the only professor for my major, so we spent a lot of time together. We'd had an established relationship for 3 years at this point, and I'd never missed class before. He definitely knew I wasn't making anything up. This one is more common than you'd think. Lots of students lie about family deaths to get out of classwork, like grandmothers, parents, etc. Asking how they passed is a question the liars won't be prepared for and can trip them up. Still awful, though. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.